Now, you were in some ways, admissions as the athletic director of West Virginia. So any tips for our young producer, Sean Mraz, here as he takes the SAT?
Well, he's focused. I like that. I like the fact he's using pencil because there's a lot of erasering going on, if that's such a word. And I think he's doing pretty well. He would probably get into my alma mater. Right?
Okay.
If they let me in, then I'm sure they'd let Mraz in.
Stanford's a problem, I think.
Stanford might be a stretch. Safe school, though, buddy. Safe school. Just remember that.
So I see you have come bearing gifts here.
Yes, we have. I know that you feel a little bit like a jilted lover when it comes to spring leagues, right? And you've been disappointed and let down before because all spring leagues, sort of like men are pigs, ultimately. So I decided in an affirmation of our faith in the XFL and our staying power that I would bring you a couple of early Valentine Day gifts.
Look
so
at
this is from one man to another. A little bit of man love, a little bit of bromance.
This is really sweet of you guys. You know how to win us over. Food. There's a giant red Valentine full of chocolates. And now Mraz is going to be completely distracted because there is like 50 different chocolates. Mraz, you want one of these? Okay, I'm going to throw you one. He got it. That's good hands. He could probably make the Guardians practice squad. So there is a giant, if you're watching, giant heart full of chocolates. And
that's right. And a little teddy bear for you to cuddle with when you're disappointed in any particular result of the inaugural XFL season.
So I'm going to give you a little secret here. We felt very burned by the Alliance. Last year, we put our heart and soul into it. We did a highlight show, Alliance Primetime. We all chose our teams, wore the gear, and it obviously went away before they even got to the postseason. So we were saying, you know what, the XFL, we're just going to let them do whatever they want to do. We're going to be out on this. We'll let them exist without our, affection. And yesterday I said, guys, honestly, who's watching the XFL this weekend? And we all sheepishly rose our hand and said, yeah, we'll be watching.
Nothing to be ashamed about.
Well, only not because we don't think the football can be good, because we saw the football. It was good in the Alliance.
It was.
It's what drew us to it. It was good football, and it filled the void. And if you guys have most of the same caliber of players or many of the same players from that league, same amount of teams, I would imagine the football should probably be pretty good.
I'm convinced, based on what I saw in training camp, we had all of our 8 teams down in Houston for about 3 weeks in January. I'm convinced, based on what I saw, that we're going to have some pretty good football. We've got a good caliber of player, I think a notch better, if you will, than the Alliance, and that's in large part because we were able to get some better quarterbacks, right? Quarterbacks are first among equals in the game of football. You need good quarterback play to have good overall play. So getting a guy like Matt McGloin, who'll be the starter for the Guardians, or Cardale Jones, or Josh Johnson, right? Those are guys that I think the Alliance was interested in, quite honestly, but for whatever reason couldn't, close the deal. So I think the quarterback play is going to set us apart from where the Alliance was. And you're right, the Alliance was pretty darn good football. I enjoyed watching it.
XFL Commissioner Oliver Luck in studio with us as the XFL debuts on Saturday and Sunday. 2 games Saturday, 2 games Sunday. Let me ask you about the pay scale. Will you guys be paying more for players than the Alliance did, and is that part of the reason you were able to get bigger-name quarterbacks?
We're not paying more. Well, for a number of players, we are paying more than the Alliance. For the typical player, they'll make about the same as they made in the Alliance. The one thing that's different with us, and this is a carryover, if you will, from 2001, the original XFL, there's a victory bonus. So players are paid more when they win a game. And I think that's going to be a great sort of motivator in the locker room. Imagine a halftime talk. Hey, I got a car payment coming up. We got to win this damn game and pick up a couple extra $1,000. Yeah. No, dead serious, right?
Yeah.
That's something that I think is important. We kind of forget about that, but these guys are not only motivated to play well for their own, futures, if you will, but for real issues that are coming up, like a bill's got to get paid on Monday.
You guys have a very good television package, which is crucial in something like this. You have both Fox and ESPN, Fox Network and FS1, and ABC and ESPN all broadcasting games. Those are big platforms. I think part of the reason the Alliance could have fallen hard last year was that some of their games were only digital only. But last year, the Alliance did primetime games. You guys will not be doing primetime games, at least not this weekend. what's the reason for putting all the games during the daytime hours?
So we wanted to, as best we could, mimic an NCAA Saturday afternoon, college football, 2 o'clock, 4, 5 o'clock, right, in the midday, and the same thing on Sunday, with sort of the NFL viewing habits.
Okay, so Saturday college football habits and Sunday NFL habits.
Correct, exactly. So we wanted to mimic that. Very easy to find, of course, on Fox and ABC, ESPN. As the season goes into the latter stages, we do have some primetime games. In fact, we have 2 Thursday night games, which will be kind of cool, weeks 9 and week 10.
Interesting. So it's kind of a way to just transition football fans. I've heard you say this before. You don't want to be competition to the NFL. You want to be a complement to the NFL. Basically, what you're looking for is to fill all of our voids, that there is no football to watch as soon as the Super Bowl is over. And I really think that there is a value there. I mean, last year, opening weekend for the Alliance had really good cable numbers.
Yeah,
really good TV numbers.
Opening game of the Alliance on big CBS drew a nice rating. So it did well, and it was good competitive football. People enjoyed it. And then, of course, they moved to a digital platform. But how often have we as football fans heard, "Oh my gosh, season's over, Super Bowl's done, I'm despondent, I'm depressed. What do I do with my Saturday afternoon? What do I do with my Sunday afternoon?" And I think we can be an antidote, right? The fans that we have talked to, and we've talked to thousands, have said to us, "We'll watch, we'll pay attention. It's got to be good football, though." Because we know, the fans know what good football is. So I'm confident we can play that level of football that will attract viewers and also attract folks to come out and enjoy a game live.
I read something that you guys will have, or at least the TV networks will have, constant odds on the game, betting odds, almost running as an under the score bug ticker. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so how much of your success do you hope is through the prism of now legalized sports betting?
Well, as we all know, right, people gamble on sports and they like to do that. And we want to engage with those fans who are doing that, right? It's appropriate to be able to do that. So I think we're taking kind of the next step, if you will, and making sure that people are aware of what the line is, over, under, et cetera, during the course of a game. My job as commissioner is to make sure that we retain the integrity that any league needs. So we've got to be a little bit careful. But I think this step is a pretty simple one because all we're doing is providing information that's already available to most folks. But this is a simple and easy way to see it. And if you're not aware of what the over-under is or what the line is, well, there it is. It's right in front of you.
So you are embracing the gambling aspect of football.
Yes, no question about it.
Let me also ask about attendance and what your goals are. In today's landscape, you really don't need great attendance to be a successful product. Bowl games show this every year. I mean, there's more and more bowl games with less and less people going to the bowl games, but they are valuable sports properties because they are television property. For the Alliance, I think the same thing. If it was a good TV property, it didn't really quite matter what the attendance was. How valuable is attendance for the XFL?
I think we're in that same bucket. It's important, obviously, because it's still an indicator of your relevance in a community. So, we've got people out there working hard to sell tickets and local sponsorships and do all those very traditional things. But ultimately, Vince knows that this league is not going to, rise or fall based on the number of people buying a ticket. That's not a metric that really matters all that much. In some markets, we're doing extraordinarily well. St. Louis is crushing it. And there's still a very strong undertone of animosity towards the Rams and Stan Kroenke for leaving. So I think there's something that St. Louis folks want to prove. Seattle's selling very well. We open up their first home game, I think, is week 2, and they should have 30,000 people at CenturyLink Field. Some of the other markets we're not where we want to be. But if we can get into the mid-teens, as an average across the board, I think that's a pretty good start. Vince has told me numerous times he's in this for the long haul, and he realizes it's going to take some time to build up fandom, as we call it, right? Because we're asking people sight unseen, in a sense, to buy a ticket or buy a season ticket. That's a strong bridge, a strong leap of faith for many people.
You're right. But here's the thing. You don't have a television deal like this with Fox and with ABC, ESPN, unless it matters more what the television product is. I mean, Fox didn't need to see your attendance figures. They didn't need to see the season tickets sold. They just said, okay, you got football on TV. We want to broadcast it. So ultimately, that's the win.
I think that's accurate. That's accurate. But again, attendance is important, right? Because of the atmosphere it brings. Players love to play, in a sold-out stadium. Even a road team loves that atmosphere because they can use it to inspire themselves. So, it still is important. Now, I don't want to overemphasize it, nor do I want to underemphasize it. But ticketing is still a sort of a key component to what we're trying to accomplish.
Most of the stadiums you'll be playing in, though, at the NFL stadiums.
Well, there's a variety. So, we've got MetLife, Raymond James, CenturyLink, obviously NFL buildings. And then there's some smaller buildings, Audi Field, which is the MLS building in D.C. In Houston, we're at the College Stadium, University of Houston, seats about 38,000. So there's some smaller buildings as well. In any case, we're only planning to open up the lower bowl. So if we can have the lower bowl reasonably well filled up, I think that's a win for us.
Well, so that'll be a problem. If you're looking at mid-teens at MetLife Stadium, where there's 75,000 seats, that's going to...
82.
82. So you know the number.
I know the number.
So you got to try to fill that in.
That's right.
I also read a report where Vince McMahon had been told or was looking at losses of $400 million. How accurate is that report?
Well, I can't speculate on what Vince's commitment is going to be. He's publicly said that he's prepared to put over $500 million into this league. But clearly, like any startup, we'll lose significant dollars the first couple, 3 years. There's no way around it.
Well, $400 million is more than significant dollars, right? I mean,
it's a lot of money.
That's $500 million you could lose in the first couple of years. I mean, does anybody have the appetite for that?
Well, Vince does. I mean, he's committed to this. He has said to all of us, not just me, but our entire organization, our coaches, our sort of executive leadership team, that he's committed for the long haul. So he's done remarkably well on the flip side with WWE and the company that he's created.
Oliver Luck, commissioner of the XFL. XFL debuts Saturday and Sunday this weekend, week number 1 of the league. So what's your metric for success? Coming out of week 1, how will you feel like, we did well?
So my metric is, can we play the type of game that we've designed? I really do believe we've got the best 450-some players, not under contract to another professional football league, NFL or CFL. I think we've got a great group of coaches, guys that have had experience. I mean, Kevin Gilbride, right, goes to the Super Bowl, wins 2 of them as a Giants OC. So just an example of the kind of coaches. Bob Stoops. So you have good coaches. I think we've designed this game to be the game that fans want, this up-tempo, fast-paced, ideally high-scoring game. So if we can accomplish that or begin to see signs of that, then I would consider this to be a success.
So you're just looking at gameplay week 1.
I'm looking at gameplay week 1.
TV ratings don't matter.
TV ratings, I mean, ultimately they matter, certainly for Fox and for ESPN, but I think they're going to be patient as well. They know we're not going to knock it out of the park week 1 and get a 10 or a 12 or something. I mean, who knows? Maybe we will, but I think the expectations across the board are reasonable. I don't want to overpromise, nor do I want to underpromise. But for me, success is going to be, can we go out there and play that kind of a game that we want to play? Because if we can, then I see us having a pretty good first year.
So gameplay number 1 and attendance and ratings 2 and 3 after week 1?
Yeah, 2 and 3. I think that's fair.
And then long term, after year 1, what is going to be the thing that makes you feel comfortable or confident about year 1?
Well, I want to see our gameplay, our quality improve as we go into the season. I'd like to be able to see our ratings sort of pick up, certainly towards the end of the season, playoffs, et cetera. And I want to see that our guys at the end of the year, our players and coaches, come back and say, you know what, we had a hell of a time. That was fun. The preparation was great. The games were great. The way we treated the players and the coaches were great. The way the games were produced was great. I want people to say this was real football. And there's an appetite for it in the spring. Not as you said, not as a competition, the NFL, but as a compliment in the springtime.
One of the things I found interesting is the way that you guys have positioned yourself away from the original XFL. You don't want to be known as a gimmick league like the original was. I don't think you want to be seen as the fly-by-night, just looking for attention league that the original was. However, the brand is the brand, XFL. So has that been a delicate relationship of, we don't want to be the XFL, but we are the XFL?
Well, the first thing that most people remember about when you say XFL and think back is, he hate me in the back of the jersey. And that may or may not be a good memory. I don't know. We're not going to have nicknames on the jersey. We'll have proper surnames like Smith or Jones or Luck or whatever. So I think there is some brand equity, ironically, in the XFL.
I would agree.
And I think it's going to bring people in just to see, well, let's see if they really are sticking true to their motto of no gimmicks and they're playing it kind of straight. So I think there's some skepticism, which is warranted. No problem with that. But we've built this league, I think, in a pretty traditional, fairly sensible fashion. And that's the sort of my guidance, my marching orders from Vince. And I think people will see that as we kick off, on Saturday.
You think the NFL is rooting for you, apathetic, or against you?
Well, I'll quote Roger Goodell, who was on a show, I guess, Sunday morning of the Super Bowl, and he basically was asked about the XFL, and he said, listen, we see it as a positive. People are investing money in our game of football, and that's a good sign, certainly, given all the challenges that the sport has. So I think at the end of the day, folks at the league office, folks, at the 32 teams, I think they're rooting for us because they'd like to see as much football as possible. And I do know personnel people, they'll love this league because they'll be watching every one of our players. And we had a bundle of scouts come down to Houston for our training camp. We've already, accredited probably almost every team in terms of the games this weekend. So the scouts and personnel folks will be following us very closely.
Last year, we had Ebersol on before week 1. I said, are you nervous? He goes, are you kidding me? I'm really, really nervous. Are you nervous?
I'm actually not. This sort of reminds me of being a player, and you go through camp and you prepare, and you've got your opening day week, and you're the starting quarterback, and you've got your chance to to shine. And if you're confident in what you've done, you have sort of a nice, quiet level of a little bit of anxiety, of course, a few butterflies, but I feel really good that our coaches and players are going to respond with really good football.
So Saturday at 2 o'clock Eastern time, first game is on what network?
ABC.
ABC, and then 5 o'clock Eastern time is the second part of the doubleheader?
Correct.
And then that's going to be on Fox?
That's going to be on Fox, and that is Houston hosting the L.A. Wildcats. So June Jones and his run-and-shoot offense against Winston Moss, former great linebacker, against Norm Chow as well. Norm Chow is calling plays for L.A., so that should be a pretty
very cool,
entertaining game. Yeah, I see two offenses that can move the ball pretty well.
And then 2 and 5 Eastern time on Sunday as well. Those will be the FS1 ESPN games?
That's right.
So it's an easy place to find football this week, and I got to say, your stick-to-itiveness, your ability as a league, and you yourself, Oliver, to continue to break down our walls is much appreciated because you've got 4 or 5 football diehards in here that will be watching football this weekend.
Yeah, the question, though, is Miraz going to be finished with the SAT by then? Jeez.
I don't know. He's hit a wall here.
He really is. He's ahead of time.
I think that once you showed him a box of 50 chocolates, all things went out the window. But this is a really comfortable teddy bear that you gave us, and so you know that we are easily bought.
You guys are a cheap date. That's why I love you.
XFL debuts on Saturday and Sunday, 2 and 5 Eastern time kickoffs. Check out your local listings. Oliver, always good to have you, man.
Thank you.
Best of luck coming up this weekend.